So, what if literally everything you've been taught about work, success, and, well, retirement is completely backwards? We're all handed this very specific script, right? Go to school, land a 9 to 5, grind it out for 40 years, and then maybe, if you're incredibly lucky and still healthy, you finally get to enjoy your life. But as Oscar Wilde famously put it, everything popular is wrong. If you've ever had this sinking feeling that the traditional 40-hour grind is just eating up the best years of your life, believe me, you are not alone.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to completely dismantle what's known as the deferred life plan. You know the one? That's the plan where you put off all your joy, all your travel, all your freedom until some distant, hazy date in the future. Instead, we're going to explore a radically different framework for redefining both wealth and work. And the best part? It's all about reclaiming your time right now.
The source material we're breaking down today is the absolute modern classic that sparked a global movement and kind of broke the corporate internet, The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. Now, I want to emphasize right out of the gate, this is not some abstract theory and it's definitely not wishful thinking. This is a highly practical playbook for taking back your life. We're talking about automating income, ditching useless tasks, and ultimately getting the freedom to focus on what actually matters to you.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, welcome to the new rich. Second, redefining the rules. Third, conquering your fears. Fourth, designing your dreams. And finally, number 5, the art of elimination.
All right, Section 1. Welcome to the new rich.
Listen, before we can even think about changing our daily schedules, we have to fundamentally flip how we look at wealth itself. If you're still measuring wealth the old school way, you're already losing the game. So let's define exactly who we're talking about here. The new rich, they are the people who completely toss out that deferred life plan. They aren't waiting decades for a gold watch in retirement. Instead, they're building luxury lifestyles in the present. And here is the kicker. They do this by using the true currencies of the new rich, time and mobility. For them, having choices right now is just vastly superior to having a fat bank account at age 65.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core difference in how wealth is actually measured. Absolute income, that only looks at the cash. But relative income looks at money plus time plus mobility. Think about it this way. A guy who works 80 hours a week to earn $1 million is actually way less wealthy, in practical terms, than someone who works, say, 20 hours a week and earns $100,000. That 20-hour worker has this massive freedom multiplier. They completely control what they do, when they do it, where they are, and who they're with. It's a total game changer.
Moving right along to Section 2. Redefining the rules.
Look, to get radically different results in your life, you have to play by a completely different rulebook. The older rules, they were literally built to keep you stuck in a cubicle. So let's walk through the curated commandments of the new rich. Rule number 1, treat retirement as a worst-case scenario fallback, not your ultimate life goal. Next up, you've got to alternate periods of activity and rest. Think mini retirements sprinkled throughout your life to harness your natural energy cycles. Also, please remember, doing less meaningful work is actually a sign of intense focus. It is not laziness. Real laziness is just blindly doing what everyone else is doing without questioning it. And finally, stop waiting for the quote-unquote right time to start living. Spoiler alert, there is no right time. You just have to jump in and figure it out as you go.
I mean, let this truly radical view sink in for a second. Retirement planning is like life insurance. It should be viewed as nothing more than a hedge against the absolute worst-case scenario. I really want you to ask yourself, why on earth would you slog through your absolute best, most energetic years doing something you honestly dislike just to enjoy the very tail end of your life when your health might already be fading? It's crazy when you think about it.
Which brings us to Section 3, conquering your fears.
Okay, so if this lifestyle sounds so amazing, why isn't everybody doing it? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Fear. Fear of the unknown keeps people frozen. If we actually want this, we have to tackle that fear head on. I want to challenge you right now to clearly define your absolute worst-case scenario. If you just quit your job or started that crazy business or moved to Europe, what's the literal worst thing that could happen? When Tim Ferriss did this exact exercise, it actually pushed him to buy a one-way ticket to Europe for a year-long sabbatical. And you know what? His life didn't fall apart. It thrived. Upon reflection, you'll almost always find that your absolute worst-case scenario is incredibly repairable. Most missteps are just temporary speed bumps. Like the book says, ask for forgiveness, not permission.
But let's immediately pivot to the actual, real danger here. It isn't failure. The real danger is the massive hidden cost of inaction.
What is it costing you, financially, emotionally, physically, to just stay stuck in a boring, unfulfilling loop year after year, all because of some misplaced fear? Boredom is the true enemy here, guys. A wasted life? Now that is the real worst-case scenario.
All right, Section 4, Designing Your Dreams.
So once we finally ditch that fear of the unknown, we have to figure out what actually excites us. Because excitement, that's a much more practical synonym for happiness. The source material gives us this highly concrete process called dreamlining. It's basically the perfect cure for those vague, useless 10-year goals we all set. Instead, you meticulously turn vague desires into actionable short-term timelines. You set a strict 6 to 12-month horizon. You write down up to 5 things you wish to have, be, and do, and then you pinpoint the 4 absolute most exciting dreams from that list. Then calculate the exact cost of those dreams, and finally identify 3 immediate tiny steps you can take today, tomorrow, and the day after. It's all about building that momentum right away.
Now, step 3 of that process brings us to TMI, or Target Monthly Income. And here is the truly surprising truth. The exact dollar amount required to live out your absolute wildest dreams, it's almost always way less than you expect. Like leasing an Aston Martin or renting a gorgeous beachfront villa for pennies on the dollar, it costs a fraction of what most people assume, especially when you compare it to a grinding 30-year mortgage. Once you actually itemize your expenses and ruthlessly declutter your life of the non-essentials, you quickly realize you absolutely do not need millions in the bank to live like a millionaire right now.
And that leads us to Section 5, the art of elimination.
So, the crucial point is, we've defined the dream and we know the cost, but how do we actually find the time to pull it off? Well, before we can live these dreams, we have to ruthlessly clear the space to execute them. Effectiveness has to come first, and that all starts with Pareto's law, which states that 80% of your outputs will come from just 20% of your inputs. When Ferriss looked at his sports nutrition business, he discovered a pretty shocking reality. Just 5 of his 120 customers were bringing in 95% of his revenue. Meanwhile, the bottom tier of customers were causing 100% of his headaches. By firing the less productive majority, he freed up a massive amount of time and energy. You've got to find that 20% of your efforts producing 80% of your wins and literally cut the rest.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how efficiency directly follows effectiveness. Enter Parkinson's law. Work will magically expand to fill the allotted time. If you give yourself a standard 9-to-5 schedule, you will subconsciously invent useless tasks and busy work just to fill those 8 hours so you look busy. Shortening your deadlines forces you to drop the fluff and take hyper-focused productive action.
Let's move to and see how this builds into your actual daily habits. You must protect your time fiercely. You can do this by drastically limiting your accessibility. Go on an immediate media fast. Seriously, lay off the news and the endless doom scrolling. Batch your routine tasks. For example, only check your email once or twice a day and do it during non-prime hours. Limit those draining phone calls. Just flat out refuse unnecessary meetings. And if you work with a team, empower them to make decisions so they don't need your approval for every little thing. Bottom line, you have to learn to say no.
We can really summarize the entire core philosophy of this explainer with this incredibly powerful quote from martial arts legend Bruce Lee. One does not accumulate, but eliminate. It is not daily increase, but daily decrease. The height of cultivation always runs to simplicity. I love that. True wealth, true freedom, and true mobility, you don't find them by adding more clutter and more stress to your plate. You find them through brutal, hyper-focused simplicity. I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. Take a hard look at your schedule, look at your habits, and look at your fears. If you truly want to step off that deferred life plan and join the new rich, you have to start today. Not tomorrow, today. So, what single irrelevant task are you going to permanently eliminate from your life right now?